3 million years ago, when they started to appear, the first groups of primitive humans on Earth. Our protagonist was one of them. At first it looked like any other Australopithecus. But there was something different about him, something that distinguished him. In addition to his unusual with the house, the prota thought he was like the others. But he soon realized that there was something strange about him. While the others around him were aging, were weakened and eventually died, he didn't care what happened. They simply did not die. Time passed, the eons came and went. But he was still the same. Well, not exactly the same. While the years left no trace on him, his body kept changing. Larger, mirror, stronger, and more powerful. In this endless passage of time, the only things that kept him standing were the house, the struggle and battle, contra anything or person who seems to be worth their time. Someone cursed with eternal life and unbearable loneliness. Those were the only things that gave him some joy. For almost 3 million years lived in this way. Your body evolving day after day, becoming stronger and stronger. Eventually reached a point where his strength was unknown. That the others began to call him the god of the earth Mu. Its power grew so much that he defeated all other existing gods, claiming the title of the strongest in the divine realm. But after that, things started to change. There was no one left who could challenge him. Its days of combat and emotion, that were once so fascinating, became an endless routine of boredom. To demonstrate how fed up he was with his monotonous daily routine, Mo lifted his foot and smashed it to the ground. Under it, all the abode of the gods that looked like a small planet trembled violently due to the impact. But that wasn't even the worst part. The whole divine kingdom began to tremble like madness, tribute to all the gods, disappointments, and even the evils within it. Absolutely terrifying. Of course, this was not the first time that the god Mo made a move like that. And there were some gods who simply could not bear to be shaken every day. One of them was Lucifer, the second strongest god in the divine kingdom. Mo, completely bored, acted as if he didn't care about the chaos he was causing. His mind was consumed by the same thought that had plagued him for centuries. Had defeated all worthy opponents without sweating. And now I am more than 1,000 years old, without facing anyone who could challenge him. Letting out a deep sigh, Mo murmured for himself. Being too strong is also a problem. When those words came out of his mouth, something clicked in his mind. After 1,000 years of senseless frustration, suddenly he felt like a genius. If his strength was the problem, then the solution was simple. Needed to find a way to weaken himself and his mind. It was obvious he could achieve a weak body like that of the Earthlings. Would have hundreds of opponents to fight. Suddenly Mo got up from his seat and shouted, "Dragon Link." Out of nowhere a huge dragon appeared in heaven above him, descending to the ground with air landing. The height of the dragon was at least 5 times larger than the throne of Mo, and by the way it was maintained. Did not seem very enthusiastic about having been summoned, but that was just the way the dragon looked. Bo's right eyes belonged to the assistant of the greatest god. And his name was Dragon Leem. Suddenly his attitude changed, let escape a deep, painful grunt why he had been called. For your surprise, Mo simply began to walk and told him casually Dragon Leem to take care of everything while he left. However, things did not go as well as I expected. Out of nowhere the dragon launched the spell linking the absolute, and in a bold movement, chained God Mo in an attempt to stop him. But in the moment Mo turned his head and cast an angry sideways glance at him. The dragon's whole attitude changed again. His fierce and generous attitude vanished. And suddenly he seemed scared and embarrassed, stuttering. The dragon tried to explain himself, saying that he had no intention of offending his lord, but that he should not have given at least one explanation. Especially since there would soon be a gathering of gods. Mo Sin Embargo was not the least bit concerned about the reunion of gods. Without saying another word, he began to walk again, pressing the dragon along with the chains, as if they were nothing. Seeing that his first plan had failed, Mu's assistant quickly changed tactics and began to play the victim, complaining that if Mu did not show up for the meeting, he would be the one to deal with the endless complaints from the other gods about Mu's actions. In response, Mu broke the linking spell effortlessly, as if it were nothing, turned to the dragon and shouted at him, telling him I wouldn't go anywhere if instead. The dragon agreed to fight with him at that very moment. That was all he needed to completely change the assistant's attitude. Realizing that being blamed of the other gods, it was much better than being torn apart by the god Mu. The dragon immediately wishes him a short and safe journey. Mo smiled profusely and walked toward what it looked like a small version of the earth, floating near. stretching hand, touched the surface of the mini-land. While doing so, began to wonder which body to choose, inhabiting the earth, to facilitate the decision. Began to listen to the messages that the earthlings sent to the gods. Most of them were useless and boring. But then a particular message caught his attention. It was a message that questioned its very existence. At first the message annoyed Godmo. Sin embargo, it wasn't long before he realized something. This person was the perfect choice to begin their journey on Earth. For the first time in 1,000 years, Mo was genuinely excited. Had finally found a solution to your endless boredom. But as long as Mo couldn't be, your assistant seemed much less enthusiastic about all of this. During a brief moment, Mo thought if he should give some kind of explanation before he left. But true to his personality, Sigma decided not to. For the dragon's surprise, simply said goodbye, commissioned him to the place and told him to take care of anyone who might appear in his absence. The dragon felt a mixture of concern and frustration at realizing what was happening. God Mu, I was just sending his soul to Earth while leaving his body behind. Worried, the dragon tried to remind him of the risks. If something happened to Mo's body while he was away, his separated soul would also die on Earth, but Mo had already made his decision. The idea that no one in the divine realm would dare, even to think, in hurting him, gave him total confidence. In your body, I would be perfectly safe as long as he was away. Despite the dragon's attempts to stop him, only with words, Mo dismissed his assistant's concerns and did what he wanted, as always without further explanation. The scene changed abruptly. It was no longer Mu, but someone completely different. Someone who had just defeated Mr. Demon after an arduous battle. The feeling of victory was overwhelming, and the person could not have been. But it wasn't real life. It was only the final scene of a video game that a player had finished. Moments before, that player was a 17-year-old loser named Linho. Linho was damnedly jealous of the hidden in every video game I played. Those lucky protagonists who always managed to gather enormous hordes of girls during their ridiculous adventures. And while Lin looked at the game credits rolling on his screen, could not help but sigh, wishing his life would be something like his. Suddenly, Lin dropped his phone and it from his hand, falling as if from a great height. In seconds, the phone hit the ground with a loud roar, tearing itself into 1,000 pieces. That's when it became clear why Q was standing on the edge of a 3-story building, ready to end his life. With nothing to live for, his body was trembling and covered with wounds. Whispered a bitter farewell to this cruel and unjust world. Before jumping, as it fell, the wind whipped his face, and Lin screamed with tears in her eyes, from the depths of their despair. If there is a God out there, he shouted, now is your chance to prove it. Take me to another world. Before I could finish, his plea struck the ground with a nauseating noise. Blooded everywhere, and his head crashed directly into the, according to all accounts, should have been dead. But then something strange happened. Lin's hands shook uncontrollably. His chest rose, and suddenly he began to breathe with difficulty, like someone who has just been pulled out of the water, without Lin knowing. God's soul had not possessed his body in an open space, and of eyes. Just before he touched the ground, now Mo was obliged to endure the unbearable pain of Lin's broken and shattered body, with no idea what had just happened. Mientras tanto, Lina's soul had been transported to the divine realm. There remained, totally surprised with his jaw almost on the floor. What surprised him was not just that he was in a place from another world, but he was face to face with a huge dragon, one who definitely didn't seem to be happy to see him. But the surprise was mutual. The dragon was also stunned. I did not expect to see a human so soon in the divine realm, just like Lin. I didn't expect the first thing he saw after he died was a massive and furious dragon staring at it. Let's go back for a moment and see what really happened. Only 10 seconds before this whole incident took place, Todd was not there, with his smirk arrow on his face, slightly touching the surface of the mini land in front of it. As I mentioned before, was not a little worried about leaving his body behind. Helpless, had full confidence. I need confidence. To be honest, the dragon tried to warn him, urging him to think things through, but way as reckless as ever. Dismissed the warnings as if nothing had happened, without a second thought. Sent his soul to Earth, changing places with Lin's soul. At the next moment, the unexpected happened. As soon as Mo's soul entered Lin's body, realized that he was in a deadly situation. No time to adjust, without warning, was in the air, falling to the ground at breakneck speed. Less than 1 second. That was all the time he had to process the danger in which he found himself. And then also, the body. Lin hit the ground with such incredible strength that it was almost impossible to believe that the impact would not only be devastating if not catastrophic. The bones were torn to pieces. The body was thrown back like a rag doll. Before finally stopping, the pain went beyond anything that Mo would have experienced in his immortal life. But the worst was not the pain. What really hit him was the pure confusion. Why did you do this? The moment he put his good foot, his soul on earth, how it happened in a mass so big and so fast. Nothing made sense. His hands were uncontrollably at first. The crash going through the body. But then all of a sudden, everything remained silent. His hands stopped. The realization came at that shocking moment of calm. Was dying. Without the opportunity to change its destiny. No time to fix what was broken. And so, the lifeless body collapsed on the cold, relentless ground. The area was strangely quiet. With no one around to be a witness, to all of what was once a proud and powerful god. With no one to help. With no one to even notice. But this was not the end for God. Mo, not yet. As you know, some human muscles move without conscious control. These are called in muscles, such as the heart and internal organs. For you, who had spent 3 million years training his body, that reached the highest level of understanding of the human form, this will allowed him to consciously control every part of his body, including their vessels and even their internal organs. Nothing was out of their reach. That's how it was only a few seconds after he died. His heart began to beat again. The pain was unbearable, even for someone like Mo. But by forcing his blood through his vessels and repair his heart, trying to stop the bleeding, little by little Mo started to get up, as if nothing had happened. Although his whole body was still screaming in pain, but instead of being angry about this chaotic situation, Mo found himself strangely happy, covered in blood. I haven't felt something like this for so long. This feeling convinced him that he had made the right decision by coming here. His next move was to review the memories of and to find out what kind of life had taken this guy. It didn't take him long to learn all about Lin. With this knowledge, Mo decided to go to Lin's house, its new base, to plan your next steps. Sorprendentemente, Mo found it difficult to walk with his legs, weak and wounds of Lin. So as an aid, he used his hands to support himself, both to move faster, to relieve pressure on your legs. Not much later, finally arrived at Lin's house. The first thing he noticed was that a cat had left an excrement just in front of the window. As soon as he walked into the little basement-like house, Mo sat on the screeching bed and began to reflect on what had happened. About Lin's life, until that time, according to Lin's memories, had only one male relative, and that person lived far from there. Did not took a long time to Mo, realizing that the guy he had chosen only came out alone, but was also poor and completely miserable. His only occupation seemed to be attending a place called school. What amused Mo the most, sin embargo, was the memory of someone in school who seemed to have made their mission in life harassing Lin. Not only was this person constantly looking for fights with him, but also strove to convert Lin's life into hell. This was also exactly the type of point that I had been waiting for. Was messy, chaotic, and full of challenge potential. I couldn't be about it. Feeling a wave of emotion, Mo launched a random blow to the air to celebrate. But at the time he did, unknown and unexpected pain ran down his right arm. Felt as if the muscles of his arm would have torn. Something was definitely not right. Mo thought the pain in his arm was probably due to how much he had used his hand muscles as he crawled back home. Soon became quite obvious that this body had not been very active. The first thing God noticed was that he had almost never used his arm muscles before for something strenuous, so even the simplest effort left them in pain. Yet instead of feeling frustrated or angry for being trapped in such a weak body, Mo actually smiled. I was genuinely happy to feel pain in this way. After thousands of years of living without it, the next day, police discovered the blood stains and glass broken at the scene where the son's body had fallen to the ground, quickly cordoned off the area, prohibiting anyone from entering. While initiating their investigation, the interest hand, Mo happened to return to the accident site. Although not to review the research. The real reason by which I was there was because that 3-story building near the scene was none other than Lin's school, and had not decided to go on with Lin's daily routine. Walked around the school, scanning the hallways until he found Lin's classroom. His emotion was stronger than he was when the door slid with too much strength. The door and hit him head on. Playing God Mo stunned for a moment. His triumphant moment was completely ruined. Murmuring for himself, slowly entered the classroom, attracting the attention of one of Lin's colleagues. The boy was immediately annoyed by the noise that Lin made upon entering the classroom, threw an irritated look at him and called him a fool, telling him to lower his voice. Hearing this, Mo completely forgot about the pain in his face and began to walk towards the boy. Mo stopped right in front of him, remaining uncomfortably close, what left the boy momentarily surprised. But not it was the weak, delicate line in skirt that surprised him. The disturbing and creepy smile on Mo's face. At that instant, God Mo, I found this guy as the bully of Lin's memories. The one who always made his life miserable, the bully. Without realizing that Linho was no longer the same person. Let out a mocking giggle and ridiculed him. What's wrong with you? You left your glasses at home. Or simply, you're so blind and dumb that you don't know how to act normal today. Before Mo could respond, the boy suddenly raised his fist and hit him squarely in the face, as to reaffirm, it's over, Lin. The blow was strong, and the blood began to drip from Mo's nose and mouth, accumulating on the ground beneath it. The bully smiled, clearly proud of himself, and ridiculed him again. What happened to your glasses? You sold them for money or something? Or you just lost them like the fool you are? Even with blood running down his face, Mo did not flinch. Was there quietly, undeterred by the blow. When it came to fighting, God Mo had his own unbreakable rules for him. A fight, appropriate and honorable, could only begin when all the parties involved had voluntarily shown their intention to fight, and at that time, was not waiting for the right moment to respond. As someone always willing to face any opponent. Already a god, a beast or a human, the only concern of was not to confirm his opponent's intention to fight, and the way he chose me. Confirm this intention was simple, would stand still and would receive the first blow from his opponent. That was exactly what happened here. After receiving the blow, the familiar emotion and the satisfied smile spread across Mo's face. Without hesitation, Mo jumped into the action, and, interrupting the bully's face with a blow, sudden address directly to him. The boy, completely surprised, received the blow in the face, just as Mo had done moments before. But when Mo his hand, a sharp and unbearable pain ran through his arm. His muscles felt as if he was tearing again. A brutal reminder that this was not his indestructible and divine body, but a fragile and weak human body. The commotion quickly caught the master's attention, who approached furiously, shouting and demanding that they stop fighting immediately. But by that time, Moise had also attracted the interest of the entire class. Head stern, angry and intrigued, for the scene of a fight that waged in the middle of the room. The bully, feeling humiliated and furious, after being hit by a nerd for the first time in his life, could no longer contain his anger. Ignoring the teacher's screams, and the teacher watching, launched directly into Mo. Ready to their fury, Mo immediately attempted to defend themselves and were able to block most of the attacks. Well, more or less. While defending, couldn't help but think it would have ended this fight a long time ago if his new body could really keep up with him. For a brief moment, considered using some of his divine powers, but to your surprise, did not work. That moment of disbelief distracted him, and before you know it, received another blow to the face. At least this one was not as strong as the previous one. The bully was not willing to back down in front of the person he thought was Lin. Not until I did, regretting having thrown that first blow. On the other hand, was not in a rather bad situation. Could not meet forces to counterattack with this weak body. Without punches, without kicks, and without their divine powers. Only had one option left, in a sudden movement. Lowered his head, pointing to a specific location, and received the blow directly to his skull. The bones of his skull were the only part of this body on which I could trust. As expected, the bully's fist crashed against his head, and the impact caused the boy to break finger bones. The pain was so intense that the bully screamed like a baby, and at that time could not help but feel like an absolute genius. To put an end to this ridiculous fight, Mo decided to take advantage of the bullies. Before he could recover, this time it was he who threw himself forward, taking the bully's hand in a fast motion, and without losing a second, used his head to strike, pointing directly at the boy's stomach, or perhaps even to their lower parts. Knowing that the weaknesses of most of the children are right there, the bully was completely surprised, and just endured another wave of pain, unbearable at the same time. But Mo was not finished yet. wanted to make sure this guy never forgot this day for the rest of his life. With another quick movement, Mo lifted his head and crashed it against the bully's jaw. This time, the pain was too much for the bully not to bear. His eyes went blank and fell to his knees against Mo as a defeated loser before passing out. All this happened while the others stayed there, caught recording the whole fight. Was the weakest boy in school defeat one of the school's biggest thugs? Was not something that anyone could believe so easily, but for Mo things were different. I had just had a fight with someone for the first time in thousands of years, using every gram of strength he could muster. The feeling was incredible, but now was not the time to celebrate, as his excitement faded. The pain of all the blows he had received invaded it suddenly, could taste the metallic, sticky taste of the blood in his mouth at the beginning, did not seem something that even the very Mo could handle so easily. But it only took a moment to realize something surprising. Was more than fine with it. After so much difficult time, actually felt satisfactory. Experienced the pain of a good fight again. A few moments later, when Mo's emotion finally calmed down, looked at the boy's unconscious body, as if I hadn't finished with him, still sat next to him. And for some reason, probably because the boy gave him such a tough fight, then thanked him in a completely unexpected move. Mo leaned towards him, lowered his head, opened his mouth wide open and bit the boy's ear, making the blood everywhere. But Mo not only bit the ear, really ripped off a small piece of it and spat it on the ground, right in the face of the horror of all his colleagues. The air was filled with horror. None of the students could believe what Mo had just made. It was like seeing a crazy person, wasn't it? Sin embargo did not care at all about what anyone would think. Blood was calmly wiped from his face, while looking at the boy's body, who even after losing part of his ear, did not move one bit. This act ended up biting the ear of the thug was actually the way in which did not leave a mark on his opponent. Someone who had given him a fight he really enjoyed. Was his twisted way of showing affection, while also marking him as someone worthy of your attention. These opponents began to be called Mo heroes. However, it was clear that only strong opponents who gave him battles could earn a place in this list. At that time, to be called one of the heroes of Mu was almost like an insignia of honor, a symbol of strength. Ironically, somehow, was similar to how humans in some eras marked the animals to show who had been neutered. Except that the Mu mark was not over humiliation, but about early recognition. The story of the sophomore bully, who was defeated by the weakest boy in school, spread faster than lightning. The most surprising part for everyone, it wasn't just that the bully was defeated, but was basically neutered. The boy's condition was so bad, who had no choice but to call to emergency medical services to be attended to. Like all other curious students, Mo was also watching, while transferred the classmate of Lena to the hospital. Of course, Mo didn't care about his health. I was more interested in how they managed to ask for help so quickly, using only one cell phone. As the ambulance drove away, Mo waved his hand, saying goodbye to his first opponent and looking forward to meeting him again someday. It was then that one of the teachers, who was absolutely furious, appeared behind him and ordered him to continue to the professor's office. By the time they got there, the teacher exploded, shouting to Mo and asking him if he had completely lost his mind. Demanded to know why he had done something so painful and reckless to his classmate. In a moment, the teacher's anger overflowed and tried to hit Mo with the folder I had in my hand. But Mo didn't flinch. Not even an inch. Mo was not only calm in the face of the threat of punishment, but actually blushed. Seemed excited. Even fractured. As if I were already thinking on the possibility of fighting another opponent soon. See, Mo's expression changed the professor's mind immediately and stopped his hand in the air, without wanting to risk suffering the same fate that the student in the hospital decided to skip the punishment completely. And instead he turned around and told Mo, who I thought was Lin, to bring his parents to school tomorrow. Had not prepared to receive a blow from of the teacher, but when the punishment, what it meant the confirmation of the fight, did not arrive, he abandoned the idea of defending himself. Just then, the teacher fired him, saying that he could leave school before the others. Without saying much, Mo did what he was told and left school. On his way to Lin's house, his mind rambled. Unlike other gods who have complete knowledge of the worlds for which they are responsible, Mo wasn't sure what the professor meant by to go earlier was a suggestion to return to your base, or something completely different. as it only made sense to him. Assumed it was just that. Decided to use this unexpected free time to healing from the wounds he had received before and train your exciting new body. If he wanted to fight more opponents in the future, needed to become stronger. His hand was visibly trembling from the pain of the damages he had received. At that time, I wish I could use some of his divine powers such as mana to heal faster. The mana, as Mo understood it, was a power beyond what most humans could handle. In some places he was called Chio Chakra, but most gods called him mana. To explain it simply, the mana was the force, vital that existed everywhere in nature. Gave humans extraordinary abilities, allowing them to become hunters in some worlds, in magicians in others, or even in powerful players in different realms. But here in this world, I couldn't depend on it no matter how much I wanted to. For now, would only have to endure the pain and concentrate on adapting to your new life and body. Tried once again to channel its mana, but disappeared in a matter of seconds. This reminded Mo of the moment of his previous battle, when he tried to use the mana and failed in frustration. Finally realized that he would have to focus exclusively in training your physical body and depend completely on it from now on. Shortly thereafter, Mo arrived at Lin's house and collapsed on the bed. Knowing that his recovery would take a long time, and that there was not much I could do about it, made the decision to return to the kingdom of the gods to see what was happening there. In an instant, just like the day he first came to Earth, his soul returned to its original body. As soon as Mo regained consciousness, his eyes opened wide in surprise. Because right in front of him, Linho was strangling the dragon, refusing to let him go. The weak boy who had always been intimidated on Earth, now he turned to the god Mo as soon as he noticed it. I would like to go to the dragon. Lin approached Mo with a new confidence and demanded that he hand over the dragon to him. Lin didn't know who he really was. I had no idea I was talking to a god. All I knew was that I was just temporarily in this kingdom, and that he would eventually leave again. Lin wanted to take control of the dragon for himself, thinking he could use it to master in his new life. Mosin and Barco did not like the way Lin was acting so and bossy. Without hesitation, Mo invoked a divine hand and held Lin tightly. Light blue, that I could not simply give orders to your lord in this way. Lin was completely surprised. I did not expect this to happen at all, but he didn't care about their protests or complaints, and began to drag him to another place without a second thought. Had not decided to give the boy a second chance to live in another world, but the expression on his face suggested I had something else in mind. Minutes later, came to Lucifer's domain, the second most powerful god in the divine kingdom. Mo entered with confidence, your firm steps, light blue, to anyone nearby that he was there clear. There was no one else around except Lucifer, who unlike Mo, was closely observing his plant called the myrrh. Mu marched directly into Lucifer's chest, without even bothering to ask permission, entering with such a casual attitude as if Lucifer was just a common guy. Naturally Lucifer was not delighted with Mu's rude behavior. Without even giving him the opportunity to explain why they were there, Lucifer immediately rejected whatever they wanted, without bothering to listen to it. But Mo did not care in the least about Lucifer's opinion, told him emphatically to open the door, because I was going to send the boy to the planet, the myrrh, as expected. Lucifer reminded him that the myrrh was not Mo's planet, and was not entitled to make such a decision. On the other hand, Men was not going to accept it, bowed and reminded him of Lucifer, who was the strongest god in this situation, making it clear to him that he could do whatever he wanted to do. To reaffirm its point, Mo added that if Lucifer doubted his strength, was more than ready to prove it at any time, and anywhere. Poor Lucifer knew he had no comparison to Mo, so he couldn't help but tremble with frustration. Seeing Lucifer hesitate and waste time, Mo took a step forward, deciding to drive the whole thing without waiting for Lucifer. When Mo approached and touched the surface of the planet, El Moon Lucifer, quickly surprised, reminded Mo that in the domain of another god was strictly forbidden among the gods. Warned him that if a god who is not in charge of a domain touched it, a barrier would be activated, unbreakable, that would block all access. And as Lucifer said, the barrier appeared, but to their total disbelief, Mo effortlessly destroyed it in seconds, something Lucifer never thought possible. Surprised, Lucifer stared at Mo, who quietly commented that the rules of the universe could be changed easily if someone really wanted to do it. Then Mo opened his divine hand and freed Linho, urging him to step forward and jump to the paradox he had created on the planet. Moon Lin hesitated, clearly frightened. But Mo reminded him that this was what he had always asked for. And now the opportunity was right in front of him. Lin once again asked Mo to give him the dragon to master in his new life. But Mo had no intention to deliver its own assistant, and simply shot Lin directly at the planet Elmer, sending him to another world with strength. After that, Mo couldn't help but wonder why today's children, they don't want to work for what they want and expect everything to be delivered to them on a silver platter, with everything solved and nothing else to do. Mo turned to Lucifer and said in a casual tone to take good care of the boy before leaving. Lucifer, on the other hand, humiliated and angry. I could only wish I had the power to tear Mo. Lucifer's story was not so different from Mo's. At the time, was known as the first demon lord in history, the one that stood above all life on the planet. He died after claiming the title of strongest. Lucifer, in his arrogance, dared to challenge the god who ruled his world. In those first moments of their battle, Lucifer invoked a blinding light that quickly transformed into a massive sword, a leaf growing much larger than the god himself, and threw it directly at him. And even the god could not resist the pure power of the attack, was knocked down, split in two by the giant sword. Ability to dodge or defend. After defeating this god, Lucifer took her place. But even that was not enough to satisfy him. He continued challenging all other gods in the divine realm, defeating them one by one and claiming the supreme throne as the devil, becoming the invincible god of the gods. Absolute supreme and unique legend among all. Soon we will have everyone's respect. Something I thought he really deserved. But his days of glory did not last. A day Mo appeared and defeated him, just as he had crushed everyone else before him, completely destroying the powerful image of Lucifer. In front of all, that day consumed by anger and humiliation, Lucifer swore an oath, promised himself that he would take revenge on this princess, cursing Mo like a bastard born of humans. In its fury back to the present, Mo traveled casually on his dragon, addressing its domain, completely outside that something in heaven. I was watching it in secret. A demon probably sent by Lucifer was spying on him, to find out that he planned Mo and waiting for the perfect opportunity to counterattack, as well as Lucifer, who told was minutes to his chance to take revenge for his humiliation, the Lin school bully. That he had just regained consciousness. Couldn't wait to see Lin dead, still lying in his hospital bed. The boy took his phone and decided to call someone stronger to teach Lin a lesson. Full of fury, displaced his finger by ear contacts until who found the name of the person who was looking for. Mientras tanto, on the other side of the city, someone was getting even with a punching bag. That guy's name was Kang, the champion of boxing in the middleweight category of the youth division. Its intense session of training was suddenly interrupted by an ringtone. Kang had his fist in the air, sweat dripping through his body, and turned around to see who was the phone that was making that ridiculous noise. Was then when another blonde boy came in and casually said it was his phone. Approached and picked it up and replied, sounding irritated. That guy was Chill, a boxer with 2 years of experience. As expected, the call was no less that of the beaten bully, with desperation in his voice, and without any introduction, told that he would buy him a new phone if he wanted to, but asked him to do a small favor first. At the beginning, was a little surprised to hear the request, but as it seemed an easy and good offer, accepted and asked what he needed to do in return. The next day, during class, when everything seemed normal, again the bully came in as if nothing had happened the day before. As he approaches his seat, the whole class remained silent for a moment, with all eyes fixed on him. Then began the murmurs and whispers. The students were talking about how someone who used to intimidate others had ended up in such a pathetic state. At first he tried to ignore it, but when whispers turned into jokes about being neutered, could not stand it anymore. To show that he was not someone to play with, dropped his backpack on the floor and yelled at them, saying that he could still take them all down, even after being neutered. Challenged anyone who doubted his strength to fight him. It was then that the class president, a girl with glasses, got up and shouted at him, telling him to shut up or get out of the classroom. To see that this girl dared to talk to him like this for the first time only infuriated him more, frustrated that even the president of the class would dare to confront him. Completely lost control. In a fit of rage, a chair at random and tried to throw it at her, to remind everyone that they should fear him, like before I could do something. The door suddenly opened, and a huge teacher entered the classroom, demanding to know what was going on. To everyone's surprise, the bully instantly dropped into his seat, and acted as if nothing had happened. The teacher looked around and noticed the class president, standing clearly angry. Asked him what was happening, and why wasn't he in his seat. However, the girl did not reveal the truth, but quickly returned to his seat and assured him that it was nothing important. The teacher did not insist further, but for some reason told the girl to meet him after school, something that made the girl feel concerned about knowing why when the school day ended. Met him as I had indicated, and it turned out that he wanted a favor. As she was the president of the class and someone I could trust, asked him to check Lin, who had been, I thought that day, and was not answering his phone. In exchange, the professor promised to write him a letter of recommendation for its last year. Although it was submitted as an application, the girl knew she couldn't exactly reject it. Lee accepted. Shortly thereafter, she found herself standing in front of Lin's house, completely selfless, in any situation in which he might be, wanting to get it over with as quickly as possible. Wasted no time, approached the door, and knocked on the door, calling to see if anyone was home. When there was no response, hesitated for a moment before deciding, check if the door was locked. By turning the handle, realized that it was not closed. For your surprise, the door was not closed. So he slowly entered the house. At the time you entered, froze with terror. Right in front of her was the lifeless body of Lin. Fight for a room, dirty, in which the insects seemed to play. In hiding the Lin skirt was horrible. His eyes were completely white, and his wide-open mouth. The vision made the girl scream in terror, thinking that Lin was dead. Without wasting another second, took out his phone and called an ambulance. Paramedics arrived quickly and took Lin to the nearest hospital. Did not spend long before doctors discovered what had happened. Lin had probably ate from sheer starvation. Abandoned by God Mu, who had previously left his body, was hospitalized and connected to a nutritional serum to stabilize it. Just at that moment, something strange, while Lin's body remained motionless, suddenly shook. In an instant, Mo returned to Lin's body. The moment Mo opened his eyes, was completely disoriented. The place was not familiar to him at all. Confused, tried to find out where he was and how he had gotten there. Before you can understand anything, felt something strange. By looking down, realized that something was stuck to his hand. Was the fourth line to deliver nutritional serum. As a god who had lived only for battle and struggle, Mono had knowledge of human tools and technology of this era. And this strange serum was no exception. Looked at him with a mixture of sadness and discomfort, trying to process what was happening. Even though I didn't understand that it was God's serum, Mu quickly realized he was sending something to your body only through your blood vessels. With his divine knowledge of what was going on inside him, it did not pass a lot of time before he realized they were nutrients. Could feel his body rapidly absorbing them, accelerating its recovery for Mo. Felt like some kind of healing magic. Although I knew very well that it was not magic, when Lin started to move his head, regaining awareness, the girl sitting nearby finally noticed that he was awake. Sin embargo, the creepy smile on his face made him think he was a little crazy. I still understand if Lin knew what had happened to him to make him. Without waiting for a response, her bag rose and announced on his way back to school to report everything to the teacher, as he had asked him to do. Mo quickly sat down and tried to stop her. I didn't know exactly who this girl was, but I assumed she was who had helped him recover so fast. However, even after realizing that, did not thank her. Instead of that, in the typical style of Mo, asked for something completely different. The girl was in a hurry to leave, but Mo was anxious to get more information about the Earth and how the people lived there. Pulling the serum out of his hand, made his usual creepy discovery and asked if he knew somewhere where he could train to become stronger. The girl turned his head slightly and gave him a side-eye look. Tears in his eyes. This boy looked nothing like an athlete. In addition to that, the poor and dirty state of his home did not demonstrate exactly who would really be interested in sports. Yet after a moment of reflection, she suggested a specific place. Was not luxurious at all, only an outdoor gym in a nearby park, with some simple exercise equipment. Without wasting time, Mo went to the park and began his training. Quickly began to pull down on the bars, stretching your body to the maximum. When he finally got tired, fell to the ground to rest the sweat falling from his body. As he looked around, could not help but be impressed. For him, these simple exercise teams looked like professional training tools. Almost 4,000 years had passed since he had set foot on Earth, and after that, had not bothered to check the progress of humans as god of the Earth, seeing even those basic exercise machines left him. At the time, humans trained with something completely different. Primitive methods that were much more difficult and less efficient. This modern equipment, although simple by human standards, was revolutionary in Mo's eyes. Mo started randomly testing each equipment, although I had no idea how any of them were. Suddenly, in the middle of his training, something small, like a stone, hit him in the back, and he fell to the ground. For your surprise was the beaten bully of yesteryear, and this time I had brought someone, a boxer named Jun, to fight with him. Even with the boxer by his side, the bully acted like a barking dog, shouting insults at Lin from a safe distance, but without daring to get closer. Man did not care at all. His calm barking, sat down and picked up the stone and asked who had thrown it. The boy, beaten, feeling a little braver, now that Jun was there to back him up, shouted that he was the one who did it, began ranting about how Lin would pay to hurt him, boasted that Jun, his cousin and a professional boxer, I was going to kill him. But before I could finish explaining, Mo saw an opportunity and surprised him with a sudden stroke. The boy fell to the ground screaming in pain, as his already broken nose broke again. This was the result of starting a fight with God, Mo throwing a stone. And of course, Mo couldn't have been about it. That was on her. But in the kingdom of the gods, things were a little more complicated. The time had come of the regular meeting of the gods, but I wasn't anywhere. So its only assistant, the dragon Linho, had to attend the meeting in his place, with his wife. The nervous little dragon stuttered as he began to deliver the message of Mo. Before the little dragon could say even the first words of the letter, Lucifer suddenly interrupted him, staring at the dragon, demanded to know why a simple assistant dared to enter at a meeting destined for the gods, let alone talk first, as if it were someone important. Lucifer's intimidating behavior frightened the poor little dragon, leaving him out of his mind. Panicking, the dragon quickly clarified that he was only there to deliver a message from God. Mo had no intention of disrespecting or offend anyone with their presence, determined to do his duty and get out of there before things got out of hand. The little dragon began to read the letter in a trembling voice, but the message turned out to be nothing out of the ordinary. As always, Mo was simply asking the gods to inform you if they found any worthy opponent for him to fight. That was all. Lucifer could not survive his wrath after hearing that and hit La Mesa with a strong roaring as the second most powerful god in the divine kingdom. I couldn't stand it, like I just did what I wanted to do. But now also ignored the meeting and the gods altogether. Lucifer was not wrong, and most of the gods agreed with him in silence. However, even in the absence of Mo, none of them dared to criticize him openly. Lucifer continued, stating that the meeting of the gods was intended to ensure the stability and security of their worlds. As the third strongest god, and of course, as someone already on the list of Mu games, the archer god finally intervened. Argued that, as always, anomalies were occurring, even on Earth. They were those who always had to take care of them instead of Mu, and that was the most unacceptable to the strongest god among them. Seizing the moment, Lucifer hit the table again. His voice ringing with frustration, shouted that the habit, the desire to treat everything as a game, was bringing all the worlds to the brink of collapse. In his opinion, the few times Mo decided to solve something usually ended up making things worse. To make its argument more convincing, Lucifer addressed the god of Cyclops, the ninth strongest god in the divine kingdom, and asked him if he remembered what Mu had made 1,000 years ago, when the planet Cyclops was on the brink of destruction. At that time, a huge and ugly creature, as big as the planet Cyclops, attacked a strange being known as a creature of emptiness, capable of devouring an entire planet in seconds. Just when the creature of emptiness began to tear apart the planet Cyclops, something suddenly went through the center of it, dividing it into two unequal pieces. That something, of course, was the god Mu, with his usual and blushing face. Delighted with the opportunity to fight, Mu killed the huge creature in an instant effortlessly. Lucifer used this event to reinforce his point, trying to make everyone, especially the Cyclops god, you will see that Mu was to blame for the consequences of the destruction. Explain that if Mu had cooperated with the other gods, instead of acting alone, there would have been no casualties. Filed his case, and probably leading the other gods to his side. Lucifer declared that they could no longer stand idly by and allow someone unfit to be a god to continue to risk the safety of their worlds. On the other side, the dragon was speechless. He could not do or say anything to defend his lord. All he could do was pray in silence, begging for his lord to return. Before things got even more out of control, the scene moves back to Earth, where the battered man began to make noise again. Yelled at Mo, warning him once again that his boxing cousin would do it. Pay for what Jung did to him. The so-called boxer cousin was intrigued, could not avoid, to be a little impressed by how quickly Mo moved and hit before curious. Asked him if Mu practiced any sport, as martial arts. But Mu came out casually. Who did not practice sports, because all I wanted was to fight. Do not play Mu's answer. However, it made Don will think of him as nothing more than a high school boy, overconfident, spitting his chewing gum with a mocking smile. Jung adopted a fighting stance and said he was ready to fight just as he apparently wanted to. Decided not to start the first, moving quickly to test this guy and see if he just talked a lot or really had some ability. His first blow was fast and accurate, landing hard on Mu's face before Mu could dodge or block. But despite the satisfaction of having launched the first blow, something left Tommy Toyon. There was something strange, something absolutely unusual for this opponent, and a shiver ran down his back. As an experienced boxer who observed carefully the movements of your opponent, Jung found it strange that Mo didn't move an inch. Even when I had clearly been seeing the coup coming from the beginning, just like the guy who had hired him. Jung had no idea that his opponent was not human, but a god, and not just any god, but a god who was absolutely with fighting. What I also didn't know was that Mo never dodged a preemptive blow. For him to receive the first blow was like a sign confirming that the battle had officially started. With her usual disturbing and overly excited appearance, Mo screamed suddenly, "Hand-to-hand combat is your favorite thing to do." His creepy appearance and strange behavior made Jung wonder if this guy I was just a crazy teenager. Then suddenly, Mo imitated the combat posture of Jung and jumped forward. Jung did not take it seriously at all, thinking it was just a silly move. When he did not throw a blow, Jung blocked it with his hand effortlessly, or so I understand. The force behind the blow of Mo made Jung slide back, completely surprising him. His hand pounded in pain for having underestimated the strength of his opponent. I couldn't believe how much strength this guy had. Apparently weak and scrawny. Me interest hand to Mo seemed even more excited. His face shone with enthusiasm as he realized that his attack had worked perfectly just by imitating what Jung had done before. There was something that Mo had to keep in mind. His current body was not already what could to depend even when he tightened his muscles with all his strength at the time of impact. The tension left his arm muscles screaming in pain, as if they wanted to give up and take a break. Of course, to Mo, he didn't care about the condition of his muscles or how much they suffered. In fact, the more pain I endured, the more I enjoyed the fight. For him, that only made the battle even more exciting. The emotion of this fight not even could be compared to the feeling of fighting creatures in their divine form. Yeah, raw and stimulating in a completely different way. Suddenly, to Jung's surprise, Mo took off his belt and wrapped it around his fist. The fact that his current female body could cause him problems, especially because recovery and healing would take much longer, pushed him to come up with this. The guy hit who was still watching from a distance. I thought wearing a belt made the fight unfair, but neither Mo nor Jung cared about his opinion. Jung threw himself forward again, this time completely aware that he could not afford to underestimate Mo. Began to throw punches one after the other, trying to overwhelm him with speed and strength. Mo managed to block most of the incoming blows, but he still found himself in a rather difficult situation. Their movements were limited. For the pain in your body, Jung's attacks were relentless in the midst of defending themselves. Mo began to analyze his opponent's movements, just to realize that they were fast and accurate, but too predictable. Just by looking at Jung's fighting style, Mo began quickly to anticipate each of his movements. At first it was difficult to understand, but in less than a minute of fighting, Mo already dodged Jung's attacks with ease. And as if that wasn't enough, when Jung tried to surprise him with a different move, Mo not only blocked the attack, but also turned the situation around by hitting his arm in full movement. Only took seconds, but trying to process what had just happened, and how his left arm was broken, began painting as the shock faded and the pain sat down. Mo watched him in silence, almost amused by the way Han reacted. The screams made Mo wonder if Jung and that boy from the class of Linho really were cousins or something like that, as they seemed to share the same exaggeratedly dramatic trends. However, Mo did not waste much time. Sealed his victory with another sudden blow to the distracted John, leaving him unconscious for a while. The scene left your friend or cousin, or whoever, completely stunned. Things went from bad to worse for him, when the expression on Mo's face changed to a terrifying emotion of excitement, practically radiating his eagerness to fight, stated that it was time to pay for all the mess caused. Especially since it was not the first time he had been disturbed. The former bully, the guy who had been so before, knew at the time that with Jung out of the game, there was no one who could save him. He had no doubt that an unknown destination him now, and there was no way to escape. Mo walked slowly toward Lin's classmate to work things out for the day. As he approached the guy being hit, did not notice that the man had no intention or will to fight, so there was no joy or honor in hitting someone who acted in such a frightened way. The guy hit for a moment, noticed the hesitation of Mo and thought that if he kept acting like this, I simply admitted that I no longer wanted to fight, everything could end peacefully. But it was too late to play the role of victim. Before I even had a chance to say anything, Mo hit him in the face with a quick movement. After all, this was the same guy who had started today's fight. Throwing that little stone and bringing in a boxer to knock down, Mo couldn't back down now. And even if I wanted to, Mo already had more than enough reason to hit him again. As expected, Mo showed not a shred of mercy and kept hitting the guy as he wanted to, testing their new fighting techniques, copied into your opponent's body, one after another, even when the face and body of the type were covered with bruises and blood. Mo was not playing. Ended with a brutal knee strike, directly in the face already, type battering. After putting all his strength into making of this an unforgettable day for that guy, Mo finally felt inside, moved with a mocking tone in his mind. Because the guy would not admit defeat. But deep down I knew I hadn't given him the slightest opportunity to do so. After finishing with both, Mo walked away knowing he had other things to attend to. Not to mention that, like all of his previous opponents, left its mark on that boxer and added him to his growing list of heroes. The beaten bully, on the other hand, after learning his painful lesson, muttered Lin's name in my teeth, calling him a crazy guy. It wasn't long before Mo will return to Lin's house, sitting in his bed. Felt great, knowing that everything was going exactly as I wanted, and that he could enjoy fighting almost every day. However, as before, their weak muscles and fragile bones that often caused him problems and even broke easily while defending were and somewhat painful. Yet to hold on to that feeling, a mixture of fighting opponents stronger than him, and experience pain and recovery through your body, Mo decided that I would do whatever was necessary. Decided to return to the kingdom of the gods, first to see what was happening there, and to obtain what he had asked the little dragon to prepare for him as always proclaimed. And while sitting, tried to leave Lin's body and return to its original form, but this time unlike before, when his soul was instantly transferred. Several seconds passed and nothing happened. Mo slowly opened his eyes and squinted his gaze, looking around, just to realize that he was still at Lin's house. Could not avoid to wonder why he could not return to his body in the kingdom of the gods. The reason for this incident dated back to a few days ago. In the domain of Lucifer was when the Prota had thrown Nalina, forced to planet Elmer without Lucifer's permission. As we already know, on that day Mo had completely ignored Lucifer. And without worrying about his opinion he went and came as he wished, not knowing that their actions were driving Lucifer to the limit. On their way back to their domain, that day the little dragon had asked Mo about his journey to Earth. Mo explained how much he had liked it, but also mentioned the weakness of his new body. During that conversation, Mo ordered his assistant to search for a wild orb of recovery for him while he was outside, hoping it would help him recover faster. Your weak body. On Earth there was only one small problem. Magical objects were common in the sea, and on some other planets under Lucifer's control, were abundant in those worlds due to the great mana that was there, unlike the land, where magical objects and artifacts could only be obtained through divine blessings or whims. And they were incredibly rare. Because of this, only a handful of people, throughout human history, had been able to use them naturally, and those who could were often considered beings promoted to gods by humans. Not much later, Mo came to his domain, where the little dragon had promised him, find him a magic orb for recovery. The next time I returned to the kingdom of the gods. When Mo came down from the dragon, his assistant reminded him once again about the upcoming meeting of the gods. It was then that Mo coincidentally searched his pants, saying that he had prepared something to due to all complaints to the assistant in disbelief. It was not great at all, only a small letter. And of course, we already know what is written inside. After deliver his message and do what he saw as his responsibility, Mo approached to the model miniature of the earth and laid his hand on its surface once again. To return to Lin's body, the little dragon, clearly, tried to convince him that to at least wait and attend the meeting before he left. But all complaints fell into deaf ears as Mo ignored him completely. As before and transferred his soul back to Earth without either of them knowing it. A little demon floated in the sky, observing in silence and reporting each movement to Mo's greatest enemy. The scene returned to the present where Lucifer was analyzing the situation. I had no idea what Mo was doing, but he was sure that his body was now empty of soul. The fact that Mo would not have shown up to the meeting made Lucifer realize that I would not be in the kingdom of the gods for a while. It was then that Lucifer came up with, the time had come to act. This was your chance, an occasion that occurred once in 1,000 years, to finally take revenge. There was no way to could be out to let pass without prior notice and determined to get rid of the only obstacle between him and Mo. Lucifer suddenly used his vile taxidermy spell. When the spell was activated, sharp purple rays appeared in the form of spears on the little dragon, but the little dragon's narrow senses did not fail him. Was not one of those who were surprised and jumped back just in time, dodging each of the attacks in the form of spear in less than an open and of eyes. His previously clumsy and embarrassed expression quickly became one of seriousness and willingness to fight. With a firm voice, demanded an explanation. His eyes shone brightly as he pressed harder, looking for Lucifer now, full of confidence knowing that Mo was not close to. Floated slowly in the air, and then with a rumbling voice, stated that he would personally expel Mo of the seat of divinity. The dragon wasted no time. Without hesitation compressed his breath, fireproof and did an explosive burst of flames that looked more like a fired laser, directly to Lucifer. At the beginning, it seemed that Lucifer was surprised by the sudden attack. But even without expecting it, effortlessly dodged it, with ease. Strangely, instead of dissipating, the dragon's attack revolved around the kingdom of Lucifer, that resembled a planet, and exploded violently on the opposite side. The explosion was massive, so intense that the archer god had to conjure up quickly an unknown reflection. First used it to protect himself, then extended it to protect the other gods attending the meeting. Unlike the others, Lucifer did not flinch to run or to protect himself. The waves and flames of the explosion, as the remains of a nuclear explosion, soon arrived at the meeting, pouring towards them with unstoppable strength. As expected from the gods, neither Lucifer nor the dragon nor anyone else was harmed. Realizing that his first deadly attack had been completely isolated against Lucifer, the dragon decided to use his final movement, release of polymorphism at the time it was activated. His whole body began to transform. Not only his arms and legs, but every part of it began to expand. Yellow red lightning flickered around him, and a fierce aura surrounded the dragon, making it clear how serious he was about protecting his master. But even after such a legendary transformation, Lucifer was not impressed in the least. In fact, it was the opposite. The demon god smiled with disdain and announced with confidence, "I will treat you like Moo's little girl easily. Then it will be the turn to pay for what he did to me." Sin embargo, the dragon had no intention of letting that happen. Was fully committed to defending his master, no matter what it costs. But things did not go as the dragon had planned. Mo's real assistant was easily defeated by Lucifer. I just left a single scratch on him. His entire body was trapped in the taxidermy spell, vital to Lucifer, leaving him and seriously injured. The archer god let out a sigh and decided to leave, casually commenting that the environment there was no longer suitable for a proper divine meeting. But the others froze in shock, stunned by the consequences of the battle between Lucifer and the dragon, were too scared to move, much less to help either side. The departure of the archer god did not happen unnoticed by Lucifer. Suddenly Lucifer recognized him and with a sharp gaze, demanded to know which side he was on, whether he supported or opposed the invasion. The archer god, however, it continued to float without haste, casually answering that it was neutral, neither supporting nor opposing. Lucifer did not like the answer, but he made it clear that he didn't care, as long as the archer god did not interfere. Then turning to the rest of the gods, Lucifer, coldly if anyone opposed Mu's expulsion. But after witnessing the dragon's state, someone as powerful as a god, completely defeated, none of them dared to speak. The Antrastanto, the dragon, was still alive and tried to warn Lucifer, reminding him that he was no match for the god Mo. But Lucifer just smiled with destin and ended with a chilling revelation. I knew that Mo was not there, and that instead, riding a weak and pathetic human body on Earth. The dragon was stunned. I didn't expect Lucifer to know this secret, especially because I thought I was the only one who was aware. At that time, everything started to fit together. It all made sense now, because Lucifer had suddenly decided to rebel against Mo. Sin embargo, Lucifer did not admit that he had discovered the secret by spying on the god. Mo instead blamed the dragon, claiming that its excess of trust in its strength and its lack of surveillance, Lucifer had been given the opportunity to find out. The dragon could not bear to hear such disrespectful words. With no other options, decided to make one last attempt, desperate to stop Lucifer. Using its huge tail, launched a surprise attack hoping to catch him off guard. But once again things did not go as planned. Lucifer remained completely, pretending not to notice anything until the last second. Then with precision and ease, dodged the attack and cut off the dragon's tail with a magical weapon. It didn't matter if it was a spear or a sword. Lucifer's power was undeniable. The dragon's poor tail was cut into several pieces, and had one reason why Lucifer did not recognize him immediately. I knew that as long as Mo's assistant was alive, could use it to find Mo on Earth. Think about confronting it in that weak human body and make him suffer. After all, humiliations that Lucifer had endured filled him with satisfaction. His diabolical laughter resonated in the air while the dragon coughed up blood repeatedly. Your body, powerless to do anything that would stop Lucifer. Later that day on Earth, things were not much better for John. Covered with wounds, was being severely scolded by his trainer for getting into a street fight. To make things worse, were forcing a long recovery break to be taken just before their important battles. After the reprimand, his coach finally fired him, and when Jung came out of the mirror, could not avoid mentally blame Link for the mess he was in. Just as he arrived at the exit door, Kang entered the game, leaving them both face to face in an uncomfortable manner. Kang immediately noticed the battered appearance of Jung and his poor mood, and without hesitation asked him what had happened to him. Jung, feeling ashamed, could not admit that he had been beaten by some guys, weak and anxious. Knowing that Kang was one of the best boxers in the country, came up with a clever idea. Lowered his head beaten, putting on an embarrassed and sad expression, and began to lie about what had happened. To make it more convincing, even forced himself to cry, literally falls to the ground, while explained how he had intervened to help his brother, who was being harassed, only for that thugs would unite and beat him mercilessly. Actually gave himself up to crying like a little child, covering his face and trying to look like a victim, innocent who was just trying to do the right thing. For surprise, did not seem to be in the least bit moved, simply ignored the tears and walked past him, casually, reminding Jung that he had no one else to blame except himself, and told him to be more careful, especially before their competencies, and walked away without saying another word. Seeing that his plan was failing and with Khan already out of sight, Jung immediately stopped crying, his face changing to one of disappointment. But just as he turned to leave, Frozwen suddenly recognized him for a moment. Felt panic, thinking that dog I had learned it, and he had realized that it was all a farce. But to your surprise, was the opposite. Ken really believed him, and now I was asking him the name of the person who had done this to him. Me Entrastanto, on the other side of the city. Mo was still sitting on Lin's dirty bed. I couldn't stop thinking on why he could not return to his original body. Their frustration and confusion grew with each second of them, based on their divine knowledge. And of course, in your experience, there could only be one reason why A could not return. His body must have been severely damaged. Yet even that reason did not convince Mo. I was sure that not just a dragon, someone as strong as a god, was protecting him, but that his divine body was not something that could be damaged. His eyes easily opened in surprise, when the realization did not strike, began to put all the pieces of the incident together, and thought, what would happen if all the gods came together to attack me? That seemed to make more sense. Suddenly jumped out of bed in panic. If his theory was correct, I had no time to waste. Needed to act fast. But as much as I tried, I couldn't think of anything to do, and that only made him angrier. Frustrated hit Lin's pillow to his anger. The thought that things could getting out of control if he did not return to his body made him feel even worse. The idea that these gods, that they would not dare to face it one by one, would now take advantage of their situation in a cowardly manner, was unbearable. I just managed to contain his fury. Mo began to slam the bed and pillow repeatedly. In his mind he wished he had at least one chance to turn the situation around and teach a lesson to all those cowardly gods. If he got that opportunity, I swore to make broth with them. Finally, after a few minutes of venting, got tired and stopped hitting. Realized it was better, calmed down and think clearly. Reminded himself that the dragon, his protector, was not someone who would fall easily, even if all the gods were to unite against him. That thought helped him calm down a bit. Began to think that if he could do nothing for his body, original for now, it would be better to focus on this body. At least that would give him a better chance of staying alive. With that in mind, headed back to the training area. This time, put all his effort into strengthening the rest of his body, ignoring his arm muscles for the moment. Training her abs for the first time made her. Mo felt his muscles screaming in pain. But unfortunately, that pain made training more enjoyable for him. As he crawled and got up, the more pain I felt. Louder laugh. Laughed so hard that his laughter echoed all over the place. Of course his laughter so made everyone around him. You'll think I was a crazy, creepy kid. Just listening to him, and seeing him irritated them enormously. In the midst of his intense training, someone suddenly asked his name. The unexpected voice surprised Mo, which caused him to lose focus and fall all at once to the ground with a blow. The person who recognized him was none other than the girl from before. The president of Lin's class was clearly upset, but not because of the noise it made. Mo was upset because Lin had not been to school for several days. To avoid making a scandal, decided to have their conversation in a quieter place. Found a bench in a silent corner and sat down. Mo started the conversation casually, saying why he would have to go to school. Not exactly a place where I can train my body. Hearing this, the girl frowned and came out. Why you want to train all the time? Mo shrugged his shoulders and throat. I simply train to be stronger. Nothing more. The class president bowed her head and spoke. And why do you want to become stronger? Mo smiled and said, to fight better and face bigger opponents. Of course my body is too weak right now, and that makes everything more difficult. From there, Mo started an enthusiastic monologue, talking non-stop about his reasons for fighting and training, duration for hours, barely stopping to breathe. The girl had no choice but to stay there and listen to their endless. By the time the sun began to set, had not yet managed to convince Lin well-loved to get him back to school. He was running out of ideas. But suddenly something clicked in his mind. Naturally, as if it were no big deal, asked him what the point is of training so hard, if there is no one to fight with. His words were left in the air, completely surprising Mo and making his position clear. He asked her to look around, pointing out that there was no one here who could challenge him, no matter how strong it became. The girl got up, and as he began to leave, told him that all he had to do was go to school, meet some people and start a conflict. Then I would have a lot of people to fight with. That said, he walked away. I asked the boy to think about it while she left. Mo could not avoid to be a little impressed by his reasoning. Had a point. After what he did to those poor stalkers, would not dare to approach him again. And without them, I needed to find someone stronger to fight. If I wanted to improve and make this body stronger, for the first time, really considered going to school. Just as I was thinking about it, a gloomy figure appeared behind him and recognized him, asking if it was Lin. The figure was wearing a mask to hide his identity, and carried a gun. Not on their part, did not bother to answer the question. I already knew what it was about. His expression of surprise was transformed into one of relief. Things were becoming much easier than I had expected. Now he didn't even need to look for his next opponent, since his opponent had come directly to him. With a small smile, Mo simply turned his head calmly, preparing for the inevitable first blow, and the darkness of battle. When the fist flies towards it, the maniac turns around with a big smile on his face, ready to receive it directly in the face. Then we see the story of Kang at the age of 15. At the moment, when he began to stand out in boxing. His sister, a rising rookie dancer, had a guy who's became more and more dangerous, until he finally crossed the line, began to follow her, and attempted to her. But fortunately, Han intercepted it in time. Had always protected his sister, and although he prefers to prevent crime, stopped him too soon. The guy did not receive the proper punishment, and upon seeing his appearance, his only grew. Became even more dangerous, to the point of her with a gun in his hands. Once again Candy intervened and stopped him. But this time he suffered an injury to his face, although he avoided crime again. It was not as fast as before. The guy managed to hurt his sister's leg, destroying her future as a dancer, causing its wings to break. After that, Han stopped trusting the law, and decided to do what she could not. Secretly began patrolling every night, making sure that those who showed signs of becoming criminals pay the price in advance. For him to fight was the only way to impart justice. Now in the present, Kang had hit Mo hard, who receded on impact. Noticing his wounds, Mo does everything dangerous, which were the blows of his attacker, and wondered if I was being recorded. However, when faced with an opponent who seemed worthy, smiled and mentioned that after all, he had attacked first with growing emotion. Admitted that he had thought it would be difficult find fights lately, but it looked like I was lucky, and observed him confused by his appearance, and launched another direct attack on his face. However, something baffled him. Mo blocked the blow with ease. Kant then decided a series of consecutive attacks, but he soon realized that his opponent was blocking them one after the other. Curious increased his speed, but each of his blows was still stopped. Staring at Mu, Kant asked him why he was beating others, and if he wanted to become a bully. Mo with a smile full of emotion. I thought he did not like incomplete conversations, and with a wave of his hand helped him attack again. The boy's attitude made Kang angry. As I yelled at Mo to get ready, add a flurry of grit, but Mo effortlessly dodged them. Watching it up close, him bring their agility, and concluded that the only way to hitting him was blocking his right field of vision. But before you can execute your plan, Mo began to laugh with emotion, getting him out of his thoughts. Kang was perplexed by his reaction, and while questioning it, anger began to seize him. Still laughing, Mo muttered to himself that in its current state could not defeat his new opponent. But that didn't mean that he should wasting the opportunity of fighting. While saying this, covered his face with one hand and muttered to himself that since he could not win, at least enjoy the fight. Smiled and talked to himself again, remembering himself, stay calm and never stop smiling. At that time, he began to receive a flurry of attacks, and he soon realized that his opponent was attacking only the points where he was already wounded. Taking advantage of a moment of carelessness, Kang threw a strong blow directly at his ribs. The impact was so strong that Mo was sent several steps back. After attacking in full force, Hank looked at him and asked him if he had noticed that his arm did not respond because of his injuries. Without giving it time to react, added that no matter how much pain he felt, would be judged without mercy. The pain of his wounds, combined with Kang's attack, made Mo smile again with emotion. Immediately recalled a fight, similar to what it had had in the past, and murmured that even though he could not always win, always tried to enjoy every confrontation, yet his desire for victory never disappeared. Then resorted to a technique he had developed. Decided to calm his emotions. Once serene, began to evaluate his enemy, learning from the situation, and using tricks to dodge attacks. The more I thought and fought, stronger and more intelligent became, finding new opportunities to counterattack. And named that technique, because suppressed his emotions to the maximum, to become stronger, however much he tried to resist. The joy of fighting always managed to escape. Every time I wanted to win, simply suppressed their emotions even more. While watching Kang put his hand on his face once again. When he lowered it, his expression changed to a strange grimace, and said that every time he is about to lose, is forced to look very angry. Whose expression baffled Kang, who thought I was mocking him. His anger immediately increased. Several veins swelled in his face as he watched him, furious, and started yelling at him, telling him a fucking lunatic. Clenched his fist tightly, and in overflowing anger he threw himself towards Mo with the intention of hitting him while he was screaming, but Mo easily dodged each of his opponent's blows. Was now behind a tree. Could no longer escape. However, the protagonist thought faster than anyone else, then buried his foot in the ground, only to get up later, also lifting the ground upwards. Use the earth that he threw upward to distract your opponent. Put his arms in front of him to defend himself against that land. Now that he launched it, said that was a dirty trick. To throw dirt in his opponent's face to win. That was more than unfair, but the guy called asking him to stop talking, and asked him to continue. What infuriated him was that he was now at his point. More furious, he turned red, and then made a quick movement, with a blow towards the protagonist. But before I could hit him, Mo quickly dodged it. After dodging it, we saw it from behind. Now realized that he had given her a very hard blow. But again he dodged everything by himself. Later realized that piss guy was also trying to point at his chin. Maybe this could be working. Since fighting without limit also existed in the outside world, if there were any difference between the two boys, I had just seen a combination of the two. The two basically fought back all the time. And the terrain here could be using it to his advantage, as there were countless things I could use to defeat his opponent. But with the evolution of the land becoming paved, allowed today's wrestlers to become much more aggressive. With aggressive techniques, we see him knowing something there. If you know exactly where you may be aiming, it becomes easier to guide your movements. Then with the movements here and there, easily dodged his opponent. In the end, if he made a few more moves, the probability of their occurrence, the variables he had established earlier, would increase greatly, with some small stones, which opened up an opportunity for him, giving the protagonist a total advantage. Now that I had the advantage, opened his hand and prepared to punch him in the face. After preparing the blow, hit him directly in the face. But now that he had managed to hit it, realized that his arm was not moving the way he wanted it to. Even tried to use his elbow, but nothing worked. The only thing he thought was that his mask broke on its own. After all that, laughed and only later said that he had lost. We really only saw what happened a minute later. Managed to hit that thing he was holding in his hand, and on his leg. After this, fell to his knees in enormous pain. After all this, wondered why he found it so funny. If he really wanted to laugh, I would do something here that he would not like in the future. That was to make him never laugh like that again in his life. So he lifted the ratchet towards the protagonist. The prota realized that he had now lost, and got as close as possible. Knowing that I would lose, just closed his eyes and then thought, how much time has passed since I last lost against an opponent? Maybe this happened 4,000 years ago. But something quickly happened. Something hit his opponent in the face, causing him to lose concentration. After all this, we heard a voice calling his master, and the guy wonders if by any chance something attacked him, but realizes that staying there, it would be a waste of time. Ends up taking off one of his garments. But then it gets on, and finally it goes. After it leaves, we see the protagonist falling to his knees until he appears, the foot of a lizard behind him. And then that lizard starts calling the protagonist. The protagonist turns around, recognizes her, and now asks her what is going on. Why is it they're like this? And for that we need to step back a little bit. There we find Lucifer celebrating, saying that now this guy will no longer be able to return to your body, since the place where it is a cut space, which is not connected to anything. No soul can enter this body, and all he needs to do now is open the barrier. Therefore, when looking back, we found the protagonist's little lizard completely defeated. Then comment that when you take care of this guy, for sure, after finishing the fight, this will be the complete owner of the land. But he begins to say something he doesn't understand, but only comment on what this barrier to him is. Comments that there nothing can connect with the protagonist. But it was possible to connect something to the protagonist. It was just that the barrier he had placed needed to be broken, which was impossible. A guy like him could never do it. But Lucifer, thinking that everything was normal, notices a strong light approaching the protagonist's pet. We realize that he was an ability, which is better known as a massive explosion. After this ability, he even thinks this guy was going crazy. And only then do we really see Lucifer's reflection. What really happened? A flash of light from inside the building. from the top of the place where Lucifer and the caterpillar were, but after several minutes, that place was filled with a gigantic flash of light, and only later did we realize that a large explosion had occurred upstairs. Sin embargo, when it seemed like it was the end of Moo's servant, from among the clouds of dust, we see a small figure escape. This is the little dragon, which after having spent all its strength, is in a terrible lizard-like state. This is why he needs to go quickly with his lord, to inform you of the situation as soon as possible, running in a hurry to planet Earth. Unfortunately for him, is not the only one who survived the explosion. Lucifer flies after you, practically on his heels, screaming with fury that he will turn him, and the protagonist, thus, out of nowhere, throws his spear of purple light towards the little dragon, in a last attempt to finish it. But that Mo gets to enter the Earth in time, narrowly managing to save himself from the spear, which is broken, crashing into the planet's protective barrier. After this we finally return to planet Earth, where the little dragon fell unconscious after entering the planet. It is then that we discover that the alleged stone that someone threw at Kang was neither more nor less than the little dragon's body that was conveniently flying towards them at the time of the fight, unwittingly saving his master from imminent defeat. Completely returning to the present, the little dragon finishes telling the whole story to his master, apologizing from the depths of his heart. For it knows that so much what has happened in the world of the gods, as in his fight, it was your fault. Mo at the end of hearing it all just remains silent, with a serious countenance that makes the little dragon nervous. Then we see that Mo is eerily furious, by confirming that the evil Lucifer was the one who orchestrated all this against him, to prevent him from returning to the world of the gods, even though anger consumes him in the depths of his being, as if I wanted to destroy everything at that moment. The truth is that he is faithful to his feelings of conflict, can't help but hide his excitement about a possible fight. According to their reasoning, this means that Lucifer, a guy I haven't wanted to fight in a long time, has finally had the courage to oppose him. This just means that he was pretending, not wanting to fight him. And so now that you have the opportunity, is looking for a new battle between the two, and Mo can't believe he's so lucky, even without being in their world. Just knowing this fills him with joy, throwing blows into the air, as if it were a boxing show, because you know that in your current state will not be enough at all. Because of this, it needs to become much stronger, as soon as possible, in order to fight properly in the body of a weak human being. However, when he tries to give a blow with his right hand, this causes him a stabbing pain that forces him to stop, and that even the god of fights himself cannot survive without complaining, even though it can endure suffering. Even Mo himself knows that if he continues in this way, his arm will be disabled and he will no longer be able to fight. What would be the worst case scenario right now? This is why he turns to look at the little dragon, asking him if he brought him the magic orb he asked for. At first his assistant does not understand what he is talking about, but then he remembers what he had told him about the world, and it turns out that if he was able to bring it with him. The little dragon smiles proudly, confirming that he did get the object that his teacher asked him to do, and from one moment to the next he begins to force something on his chest, until it finally spits out the orb. According to the little dragon, this is a dragon bloodstone, which is formed from the solidified fluids of a wounded dragon, infused with a single-use healing spell. The little dragon recognizes that I known that things would go away, so hands-on, then would have brought more. But for now this is all it can do. Mo holds the stone in his hand, and although it is obvious that the more the better, the truth is that for now this should serve, at least for what you have in mind. It is then that it gathers all its mana, or try to do it around the magic stone. As you use the healing spell in the world, your arm wounds, as if they were a temporary tattoo or something similar. When this happens, the Proto realizes that something has changed. By testing your body, note that the spell of the orb is not simply one to be cured, but has even better properties to strengthen itself, as he feels his muscles are much more sensitive than before, and asks if it is due to a physical improvement incantation. The little dragon confirms his master's suspicions, explaining that he put his own magical energy in the dragon's orb, which shows that he not only made an effort to bring it in, but to improve it as much as possible. After having used the orb, this one shrank severely, to the point where the Proto can hold it with his fingers, and they no longer fill his hand. This means that there is still some of the spell to be used. This is because the body of the Hin can handle mana correctly. You may therefore have the luxury of reusing the spell of the orb at some point, in case you need it again. Even so, he prefers to give it to his assistant to recover its energy also, but the little dragon refuses to do so and instead swallows the orb again to protect him until his master wants to use it next time. At the same time that this happened, we see a lizard eating. This appears to be the class president's mascot, who called her Dolly, and regrets not being able to talk to her all day long and play together as if they were friends. Since his time is up, for now, releases it in his fish tank to continue having fun on his own, alone saying goodbye to her after a while, but promising to see her again when she gets back from school. After this we move to the Prota school, where we see that his bully, after having been beaten up twice by the same type of person, decided that it would be best to change. He thinks it didn't fit that of being a bully anyway. So he decided that for now he would only dedicate himself to studying, completely changing his vocation in the school hierarchy. Unfortunately for him, the Prota appears at the door soon after, and this fills him with nerves, smiling, arrested for another fight against his usual victim, which demonstrates how the roles have changed. Among them comes the class president, who questions him about how he got here early now, but Mo smiles, reminding him that she gave him the great idea of looking for fights on his own, demonstrating an even more macabre and crypt appearance that all of the above combine. Even the president can't believe the type of person with whom he is dealing, and even she begins to question whether Mo, or rather Lin, didn't get into anything unusual. Despite this, wishes you good luck in whatever you have in mind. In the afternoon, we see that some students at the school are having a conversation. Among them we see Kang, who asks a girl about the rumors. She tells him about something called the second-year neutralizer. This intrigues Kang, and her friend starts telling him the story of a sophomore boy who was constantly tormented by a bully. As history progresses, Kang is becoming increasingly intrigued by what is happening, and eventually asks about the fight the harassed boy had. And her friend replies that she not only defeated her bully, but also bit him and removed a piece of the ear. This being the main reason by which he was nicknamed the neutralizer, Kang gradually begin to tie the loose ends, thinking about how Jun presented himself before him with an ear wound. Not to mention that the description of the boy harassed is very similar to that of the Prota. Slowly begins to think about the possibility that he will continue. I could have been lying to him, which makes him very angry. On the way home, sighs and feels very frustrated because he almost beat up the wrong guy, but he hit it anyway, so he feels somewhat guilty, while Kang regrets having acted badly. As a vigilant, the Prota is just behind you, complaining that today he did not have the profits it expected. During class, everyone was scribbling things with their fingers, and no one seemed to be interested in fighting as much as he was. Mo gets down to thinking then that a better way to get even would be to go to the usual park for training. But when he looks a little better at the person in front of him, he notices that his arm looks strange. By sharpening his vision, recognizes that the size and position of the muscles are exactly the same as the guy who attacked him before. Mo, without thinking, screams that Kang is the guy from yesterday who almost beat him, scaring Kang very much. When someone has just discovered it, the Prota does not doubt it and runs towards him with his smile, maniac, ready to start one of the fights he likes so much. Before this can flee in a hurry, confused to see that the Prota, the same guy from the day before, comes after him, and everything is worse because apparently I understand it. This makes no sense to Kang, as he took care to dress appropriately, so that no one could recognize it. And that only makes him question, plus the reason why the Prota is him, thinking he wants to report it to the police. The only thing you can think about is losing it for now, and for that he turns around in a corner, where the Prota, when rotating, finds nothing but an empty alley. Mo wonders where his prey has gone, annoyed that he missed a perfect opportunity for a fight. The little dragon peeks out of his clothes, asking his teacher if he is looking for yesterday's guy, himself, who dared to challenge him. The good thing is that the day he fell on top of him had enough time to recognize its aroma, and making use of that sets out to track him down as if he were a search dog. In the middle of his search he collides with someone, and as soon as you look up, runs into the class president. At first she freezes, but from one moment to the next his cheeks blush a lot, for she is a lizard lover. When the little dragon sees her, He complains that a simple portal is preventing us from passing, for just standing there looking at him, as if nothing had happened. So try to order him to move. But out of nowhere the president extends her hand towards him, holding it and taking the little dragon by surprise. That I did not expect this gesture from an ordinary human being. The little dragon complains and twists in the air, asking the president what she does, and if he even knows who he is. I would like to allude to the fact that it is a very powerful dragon, an assistant to the strongest god among the gods. The dragon tries to free itself from the president's hands, but it is impossible for him in his new body, and complains that if he could use his magic, then it would not be difficult to break its grip. But for the time being he is completely defenseless against her. On its side, the president is completely astonished by what she sees as, because until now, no matter how much of a lizard lover he may have been, I had never seen one who knew how to speak and question. So such a creature really could exist in the world, even when he has it right in front of his eyes. Even with all these oddities, that should be a wake-up call for her. Finds it terribly cute. As much as her pet dolly. Or even much cuter and more adorable. Fortunately, the little dragon manages to free itself from its hands, jumping like a scared kitten, back at the feet of its original owner Mo. This one is entitled with the protag for that horrible scene you have just witnessed, because if he has had his powers available, then at least I could have put up a fight. But this was not the case. Panting, as he recovers from this horrible first impression, the president finally returns to his usual cold and fragile personality, directing his serious gaze towards Mo. Yet she's still in her lizard-loving mode. Turning his gaze back to the little dragon, asking if he is a friend of his by any chance. All while the dragon sweats from nerves just looking at her, even under the protection of his master, the strongest among the gods. Upon realizing that he is talking about his assistant, Mo acknowledges that he could certainly call him his friend, and a very obedient one, although of course he sees it as something else. But can't say it, since they are on Earth, and for sure no one would believe it. The president, whose name is Kim, by the way, is under the effect of a jealous state. To see that someone like the protag has such a cute little animal that she would like as her pet. Mo remains silent looking at her for a moment. Feeling that something is wrong with her, out of nowhere lift your leg, surprising his servant, and raising him in front of her, asking if he wants me to lend it to him for a while. Although his little dragon doesn't seem to like the idea very much, and holds on to his pants as if he were a tech. This suggestion surprises both the little dragon and Kim, Eugene, leaving them both very confused. After a while, Kim takes the little dragon with her home. But unfortunately, even though they were able to make good friends with him, he is severely upset with her. And Kim is more than aware of that. Just by looking at it to understand what happened, we go back a few moments before. Having shaken the dragon by the leg, the protalo held by the back of his head in front of Kim, he was busier looking for someone at the time. Reason why Kim likes it. That if they helped him find Kang, then I would lend him his dragon for a while. Him, despite being a serious girl, and who always controlled everything calmly. This time he got carried away and didn't think twice about it at the time of accepting Moe's deal. Even though the little dragon wasn't too funny to use it as a currency of exchange, as soon as she agreed, or threw the little dragon with one hand towards his head, wearing it as if it were a hat. The protag ordered his assistant to stay with her for a while, and then returned on his own account. However, the dragon was not happy with this, and wanted to know where his teacher was going. Mo's answer was very simple. He would go to the park from before, to be able to fight again, against the watchmen who had attacked him, back to the present. At Kim's house, the little dragon finally appears before her. His name is Seong, the secretary who assists his teacher Mo, as his master ordered him to. From now on, the two of them would have to cooperate whether they wanted to or not. And while saying this, the dragon prepares his hand, raising her towards her as if she wanted something. Its simple but tender gesture is more than enough for Kim to cannot stand it, and feels as if the heart would burst because of the dragon's cutie. She brings her fingers closer to smash her hand, and asks if the teacher he is referring to is Lin. Even though she does not understand anything, after confirming the latter, she agrees to help them, even if she doesn't believe it. She is the president of her class. This statement further confuses the little dragon, who does not understand what a class president is. Kim explains that in a nutshell, she is the leader of her class, and as if that wasn't enough, is also positioned as the first in the exams. The little dragon smiled, For she has just understood that her teacher did not choose her for nothing, but is completely worthy to cooperate with him. Sin embargo, the little dragon notices an important detail. And it seems that Kim is the leader. Means that the protut is not, and that worries him a lot. When thinking about Lin, Kim replies that even if it doesn't look like it, he is not so high above her. This leaves Sanchez even more surprised and concerned, because he can't believe that someone as strong as Mo is not the leader of a class, while Kim see, or that Mo has even allowed it that way. Furious Jom begins to complain and boast that his teacher is the strongest of all. No form possible that someone could be the leader instead of him. Therefore, can't believe that someone else is in charge. By starting to reason a little, realizes that if Kim is the class leader, then the prota has no choice more than being the leader of the entire planet Earth, which in a way it is true. Or at least it was until the betrayal of the gods. Yet knows that his master has not yet reached this high. So he asks Kim from the heart to do everything possible to support the prota on its journey to become the strongest. Kim accepts the deal, but only on the condition that John visits his home, often putting it under a difficult position. Or so it seems in reality. John planned to use her to get information about the Earth, but if she asks him to visit constantly, then you won't even suspect anything. Is how he accepts the conditions without thinking too much about it. Because of his teacher that is nothing. Not to mention that it comes to you as a for their plans. After this we see how John thinks for himself that he will help the prota return to his title of the strongest. Anyway, we move on to the training part, where we see the prota doing exercises with one hand, on bars. But when it ends it drops to the ground. Exercise makes you sweaty and tired, but you can definitely feel the difference, as it has greatly improved its physical capabilities. Feel the physical increase, and its muscles, torn have healed and become stronger. All thanks to the orb of recovery that brought you. At this level, Mo believes he could enrich himself a little more. So he throws a punch at one of the iron poles, and then his fist like a firearm. Feeling satisfied that she is still in one piece. Unfortunately for him, Kang does not appear today. The good thing is that since you know they go to the same school, it's only a matter of time before you find it and chase again. As we watch him walk away, we can appreciate that his punch left mark on the recording post on their way down the street. Moo smells sweat in the air. This one extends near Kim's house, who at the moment is teaching John how to look for Kim via internet. But while she tracks, Dawn feels the scent of his master nearby. He takes advantage of this to go out and say goodbye to Kim, going outside to run down the street. Until reaching the castle of Mu, he brings you up to speed how he has managed to completely control Kim and place it under his command. But as they speak, someone is beating someone else up. Yeon notices that there is a strange smell nearby and warns Mo of this. We stopped by to see a nearby alley, where the guy being beaten complains that the vigilant, of which he speaks, beats him for stealing a bicycle. But he tells her that he is making a mistake with him, but tries to warn him that he is someone wanted, and that he will send people after him. But Ken is not interested in this, as the so-called criminals talk a lot, but it never does anything about it. The prota looks out from behind him with his macabre smile, happy that he finally found his prey. When listening to his opponent's voice, Kang turns abruptly to look at his back, just to realize that the prota ended up finding it anyway. And it is confirmed to his master that this is the same man that they have been since the other day, and that there's an incredible smell coming from somewhere else. But it turns out to be nothing more than a food restaurant that captures a lot of the dragon's attention, while Jung is distracted by the smell of food. The main character and his rival look each other in the eyes, as would two predators about to fight with claws and fangs. The first to move is Mo, who approaches his target in a threatening manner, who asks you to wait a moment, trying to clarify that it was all just some misunderstanding, and that despite what happened he has no intention of fighting. But Mo turns a deaf ear to this, and throws himself on top of his weight, ready for combat. Ken on the other hand knows that this is bad, as he cannot break his vigilant code, but in the same way, takes up combat position to face Mo. This one cuts the distance between the two with an eye, surprising Ken with his crazy smile, and awakening in both the feeling that the following will be like a storm of violence. However, from one second to the next, the prota stops dry right in front of Ken. which is also paralyzed by this, although it does not maintain its typical appearance. It is true that inside, feels disappointed that his opponent is not launching an attack, preventive, and in turn, Kang wonders why the protut is not hitting him. If he came with the intention of fighting, in that brief moment of neglect, the from before takes the bit and he sames, uses it as a weapon and takes it away, using it against him as revenge. Trying to end his life. Can dodge the blow. Repositioning itself as in boxing, but this leaves the head of the prota uncovered, which was not what he was looking for. Knowing that if he dodges the blow then he will be whoever receives it. The latter does not even flinch at the mechana. Intriguing for his rare indifference is then that the cane hits his head. But although it did him some harm, the prota thinks it's just child's play, and smiles when he sees that finally, someone else deserved to play with him. Even though it was not the damn I was looking for, is enough to have fun for a while. As he complied with his only rule for combat, and this one is finally starting, adorning his face with his crazy smile, Moe throws a kick at the, causing him to release the baton, and this, rotate several times in the air, until it fell into Moe's hand as if it were his own. While the bully recovers from the kick, Moe positions the baton near him, but using the handle side to attract it when throwing it, of the back of his neck taking advantage of the movement of his head. Moe uses one of his best moves against him. The header that defeated his bully previously. But not even like this, is enough to remove the foam from his face. While for his part they can't take any more pain. He complains and is stunned for a moment, due to the pain of the sudden blow, and does not take advantage of this crucial moment of, for your next move. Out of nowhere begins to release a burst, intense punches on his body. That receives them as if it were a sandbag. As if that were not enough. Intercalates all the blows of his fists together with the mechana, until eventually he is left on the ground. Severely sore at the beating he has just received from the prota, Moe just stands there looking at him, happy for his victory and the work he did with the. That's what it looks like, as it all turned out to be too boring for him in reality. Remembers his arrival on Earth, and how it is that at the time, felt that only the impact, sudden when it came to fighting was fun. But with time, the fights have become very different than I expected, as they have been swaying beside him all the time. And if this continues, then it will be no different than before coming to the planet. That is why at least, your next opponent must be Kang, since I until now was the only one who offered him a real challenge, by turning to look for it. Realizes that for his concern that has disappeared, shortly before the purchase started, his fight against the Kangin fled the scene. Wondering how is that the prota managed to find him again. In that brief moment, before fleeing, Kang got to see the manic smile on his face, which was more than enough, so that I would not see John, who was still enchanted by the aroma of the restaurant. For since his arrival on Earth he had not had a meal decent because of this, was kicked by accident. This being similar to a traffic accident, where the driver can't fled on the first attempt. After a while the latter manages to return home, and takes off all its equipment. Yet the smile of the head of the mind he cannot be removed. Beginning to realize that he actually could enjoy the simple fact of fighting, for no other apparent reason. Before I could keep thinking about it, his sister appears out of nowhere, that the prosecutor has arrived. His sister's name is Yuna, that after his incident with the guy, decided to change his career to prosecutor, to lock up criminals. She plays with her brother, bothering him with the fact that she is a prosecutor, and that it should not block its path. In this way, he questions him if it doesn't hurt when he hits himself. And Yuna is still surprised at how her brother does not move when he tries to push it. Even if it is a game. Yuna goes to her room, and asks her brother, make dinner, and even though this irritates him, at least she was glad that I no longer found her that day. Remembering how it was that at the moment of hitting the guy, only felt anger. Just like now whenever he fights. He was not like that when he started boxing. And that at that time it was very different. The next day on the way to school, John tries to apologize to his teacher for having been distracted by the food. And at the same time, students around him begin to notice him, mistaking it for a comfortable dragon. On the way the prota crosses paths with Kim, who jumps with joy at seeing John again. The prota for his part reminds him about the treatment they made, and Kim gets serious again, revealing that he may know his identity. This is a vigilant they call Dulgin, whose name means something related to bullies and criminals. which together with their failure to attack them after they performed made it well known in the streets. Kim wonders why the prota fights him, thinking maybe he did something to Iljin. But the truth is that not even that. Mu has an idea why he is after him. What irritates him is that he continues to run away from him, but he assures that next time he will not let it slip away. Without realizing that Kang is just behind him, he orders her to stay there after it is over. As he will go on his own to find him, the prota feels a chill when he hears that voice on the back of his head, and Kim begins to suspect that they know each other. Lin is very pleased to learn that his prey finally came to him, and he keeps smiling, even when it is time to attend classes. In spite of this, he knows that he does have the possibility to fight. Then you can wait as long as necessary, which he does find extremely difficult. Anxiety is excessive up to that moment, so he cannot stop moving his leg, as if to cause an earthquake. Script for his part is clinging to her inside his pants, feeling exalted due to the constant amount of vibrations you feel, as if there were a very intense tremor. Fortunately, the afternoon is coming early, and after the last warnings are given, everyone leaves. The prota has on business. So let that ended with Nazi in Kim's care, who does not think twice, and agrees to spend the rest of the day with his favorite lizard. The moment she walks through the door and leaves, peeks out the entrance to the living room, pausing lines. I bows his chest as a fighter and expressed that he was waiting for, just like he asked her to. So he acknowledges that he fulfilled his part of the deal, so he will do the same. Pulling gloves out of his backpack, which the prota compares with the one who improvised, wearing his belt, asks him if he really likes to fight. Before this, the prota replies that he is getting the question wrong, since he does not like to fight, but the pain and shock he feels when he is hit, or when their muscles scream from the movement. From the past to now, just fighting is what made him feel alive. So although he does not like the fact of fighting, he does not like it. Is necessary for you to feel happy, due to the sensitivity it has, and thinks he is being lied to, or does not agree with your words. Put that aside, pulls another pair of gloves out of his backpack, and throws them towards the prota. These hit him in the face, but it's nothing, and orders you to put them on, as its code does not allow it to hit anyone, who is not even a bully. But this gesture was more than enough for Mud would fight for friendship, and lunged at him with a punch, which can dodge by standing aside. This irritates him, because it seems that Lin is in too much of a hurry to fight, but then strives to calm down, remembering himself who came on his own to look for a fight. Yet it is questioned what is happening, and if it is any kind of fight or normal argument. The exchange of blows forces him to retreat and take a breath. So he decides to take this as if it were a real fight, boxing. That's why it relaxes your body so you don't wear pants. I need master to come near. And as soon as it is within your reach, throws a punch that results in a counter, and then combines it with another blow with the left hand. This is a good feeling for Kang, as it can cause the force of your body's rotation to is transmitted to their fists, and thus give a big blow to the prota. Kim does not take long to feel happy and fun, smiling at the realization that this is the boxing he liked so much. Mo acknowledges that if he had not had a physical improvement, then the blows of his opponent would have been really dangerous. However, this is what makes combat fun, and smiles even more at the excitement of a real fight. On the other hand, at school, one of the students of the night study session feels a strong tremor that makes him wake up. After a notices a note on his table next to a candy bar. Upon checking the weather, he realizes that it is still not too late. So he leaves the living room while eating the candy bar, although he finds it somewhat disgusting. As he walks around, looks at a silhouette next to a window. Inside you can see the star still fighting against the dog, but barely being able to cover himself from the constant punches. That's why he decides to use a front kick to stop its advance. What it gets to take Kang by surprise, and almost manages to cover itself. He claims Lin for this, since it was supposed to be a boxing match, and therefore kicks should not be allowed. Lin asks him what boxing is, and then jump up and make Kang understand that when it comes to fighting, nothing and no one says that only fists can be used to attack. And that's it. Launches a powerful flying kick straight to his head, which is more than enough to cause severe harm to Kang. In addition to a grate, the prota continues with his attacks by kicking his side and canting. Is impacted in the chest, This change of strategy is enough to overwhelm him and turn the tables on the fight in favor of Mu. Was totally defensive. In embargo, what impresses him the most is how heavy his kicks are. And in a moment of carelessness, Mo launches a casualty to his leg. Hin knows that if he lets it hit him head-on, will lose control of your body. But when connecting the kick, this one just does something to Kang. After this, Mu recoils, smiling at the thought of it's over. But in reality, referred to the fact that the effect of the dragon's orb is over, and therefore no longer has the strength to strike, which is the reason why Kang barely suffered harm. Kang realizes that his opponent has lost his strength, and smiles for this stroke of luck.